The demographics of Ukraine include statistics on population growth, population density, ethnicity, education level, health, economic status, religious affiliations, and other aspects of the population. The data in this article are based on the most recent Ukrainian census, which was carried out in 2001, the CIA World Factbook, and the State Statistics Committee of Ukraine. The next census is scheduled to take place in 2020. The total population of 42,721,954 depicted here excludes Crimea and Sevastopol. The total population including those territories is 45,045,323 population. 45,426,249 age structure 0 to 14 years, 21.6% equals 11,101,469, 15 to 64 years, 70.2% equals 34,320,742. 65 years and over, 15.2% equals 6,022,934. 0 to 14 years, 14.8% equals 6,989,802. 15 to 64 years, 69.2% equals 32,603,475. 65 years and over, 16.0% equals 7,507,185. 0 to 14 years, 15.1% equals 6,449,171. 15 to 64 years, 69.3% equals 29,634,710. 65 years and over, 15.6% equals 6,675,780. Median age total, 34.8 years, male, 31.9 years, female, 37.7 years, total, 39.7 years, male, 39.5 years, female, 40.1 years, total, 39.8 years, male, 39.7 years, female, 40.1 years. Historical data. There were roughly 4 million Ukrainians at the end of the 17th century. The historical information is taken out of Demoscope. True. Please note that territory of the modern Ukraine at the times listed above varied greatly. The western regions of Ukraine, west of Zebra River, until 1939 for most of time were part of the Kingdom Galicia and later the Polish Republic. The detailed information for those territories is missing. For more information see Demographics of Poland. The Crimean Peninsula was changing hands as well. In 1897 it was a part of the Taurida Governorate, but after the October Revolution became part of the Russian SFSR, and later was turned under the administration of the Ukrainian SSR. The territory of Budjak became a part of the Ukrainian SSR in June 1940. The censuses of 1926 through 1989 were taken in the Ukrainian SSR. The census of 1897 is taken with the correspondence to 9 gubernors that included in the territory of today's Ukraine. The statistics of 1905 records are taken from www.statoids.com, which provides a broad degree of historical explanation on the situation in the Imperial Russia. The census statistics of 1931 was estimated by the Professor Zenon Kuzela from Berlin. His calculations are as of January 1, 1931. This ethnograph is mentioned in the Encyclopedia of Ukraine as one of the sources only available due to lack of the official census. The 2001 census was the first official census of the independent Republic of Ukraine. Its data is given as on January 1. The 2003 to 2009 stats were taken from the official website of Ukraine.The and represent the data as of February of each year for the real population. Vital statistics. Ukrainian provinces of the Russian Empire. The figures below refer to the 9 governorates of the Russian Empire with a Ukrainian majority. After WW2 estimate note, data excludes Crimea starting in 2014. Demographic statistics. Current vital statistics. Note the 2014 statistics as well as all comparisons between 2014 and 2013 now include Crimea as part of Russia. The number of births during the months of January to February 2015 decreased by 9,907 over the same period in 2014. The birth rate for January to February 2015 was 9.7 per 1,000 population, and decreased over 11.1 during January to February 2014. The number of Russians decreased by 10% of the total population of Ukraine because many were exercising Russia's right of return. Number of births for January to April 2014 equals 152,780. Number of births for January to April 2015 equals 134,563. The number of deaths during the same period has decreased from 7,807. The mortality rate for January to February 2015 was 15.2 deaths per 1,000 inhabitants of rate of 16.3 during the period of January to February 2014. Number of deaths for January to April 2014 equals 226,858. Number of deaths for January to April 2015 equals 217,288. During the period of January 2015, the natural increase over the last 3 years were, respectively, -5.5 per 1,000 and -5.2 in 2014. Natural increase from January to April 2014 equals -74,078. Natural increase from January to April 2015 equals -82,725. Birth data by oblast. Note: recent data for Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts has been affected by the war in Donbass, and may only include births within the government-held parts of the oblasts. Compared to 2012, amount of attrition increased by 16,278 persons, or 3.1 to 3.5 persons per 1,000 inhabitants. Real, natural decrease was observed in 23 oblasts of the country, while natural increases were recorded only in the capital Kiev, Zakarpattia, Rivne-Volyn Oblast. Some regions registered a low natural decline, such as Chernivtsi, Ivano-Frankivsk, Sevastopol, Lviv, Ternopil, Crimea, Kherson and Odessa. The largest declines were recorded in Donetsk, Luhansk, Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkiv, Poltava and Chernihiv, regions which have in common a low birth rate and high mortality of a large urban population and a strong rural population aging. Net migration rate 0.3 migrant 1002 population. Infant mortality rate 9.1 deaths 1000 infants. Live births for 4564 deaths 9.0 deaths 1000 infants. Live births for 4511 deaths. 8.4 deaths, 1,000 infants live. Births for 4,371 deaths. 8.0 deaths, 1,000 infants live. Births for 4,030 deaths. 8.9 deaths, 1,000 infants live. Births for 2,193 deaths for January to June 2011. 8.6 deaths, 1,000 infants live. Births for 2,190 deaths for January to June 2012. 7.8 deaths, 1,000 infants live. Births for 1,993 deaths for January to June 2013. Life expectancy at birth. Total population 71.37 years. Male 66.34 years. Female 76.22 years. Total fertility rate 6.00 children born. Woman 5.39 children born. Woman 1.08 children born. Woman 1.46 children born. Woman 1.53 children born. Woman 1.51 children born. Woman. In 2001, Ukraine recorded the lowest fertility rate ever recorded in Europe for an independent country, 1.08 child. Woman. During this year, the number of children born was less than half of that born in 1987. Lower rates were recorded only in former East Germany, which registered 0.77 child woman in 1994, as well as Taiwan, and both Hong Kong and Macau. After neglect by the Kuchma administration, both the Yushchenko and the Yanukovych governments have made increasing the birth rate a priority. Total fertility rate by oblast. Although none of the oblasts in 2013 has recorded a higher fertility rate, 2.10 children per woman. However, the rate has been in rural areas in the Rivne Oblast and the Volyn Oblast, while a very close generational renewal rate was achieved in the Odessa Oblast, Zakarpattia Oblast, Mykolaiv Oblast, Chernovtsi Oblast and Zhytomyr Oblast, weaker when they have been recorded in the Luhansk Oblast, Sumy Oblast and Cherkasy Oblast. The fertility rate of the highest urban areas were recorded in the Zakarpattia Oblast, the city of Sevastopol, Volyn Oblast, Kiev Oblast and the Rivne Oblast. The lowest rates were recorded in the Sumy Oblast, Kharkiv Oblast, Cherkasy Oblast, Chernihiv Oblast, Chernovtsi Oblast, Luhansk Oblast, Poltava Oblast, Donetsk Oblast and Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Statistic rate of regional capitals. Ethnic groups. Ukrainian in 2001 year 77.8%, Russian 17.3%, Romanian 0.8%, Belarusian 0.6%, Crimean Tatar 0.5%, Bulgarian 0.4%, Hungarian 0.3%, Polish 0.3%, Jewish 0.2%, Pontic Greeks 0.2% and other 1.6%. Before World War II. After World War II. Languages. According to the latest census that took place in Ukraine, a common following languages: Ukrainian 67.5%, Russian 29.6%, Crimean Tatar, Urum, Bulgarian, Moldovan, Polish, Hungarian. The below table gives the total population of various ethnic groups in Ukraine and the primary language, according to the 2000 census. Religion. Ukrainian Orthodox Church, Kiev Patriarchy 39.8%, Ukrainian Orthodox Church 29.4%, Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church 14.1%, Ukrainian Autocephalous Orthodox Church 2.8%. 6%, Roman Catholic 1.7%, Protestant 2.4%, Islam 0.6%, Jewish 0.2%, other 2%. Regional differences. Regional differences in population change between the Soviet census of 1989 and the Ukrainian census of 2001. Ukraine's population declined from 51,706,600 to 48,457,020, a loss of 2,926,700 people, or 5.7% of the 1989 population. However, this trend has been quite uneven and varied regionally. Two regions in western Ukraine, Riv and Zakarpattia, saw slight population increases of 3% and 5% respectively. A third western Ukrainian region, Volyn, lost less than 1% of its population between 1989 and 2001. Collectively, between 1989 and 2001, the seven westernmost regions of Ukraine lost 167,500 people, or 1.7% of the 1989 population. The total population of these regions in 2001 was 9,593,800. Between 1989 and 2001, the population of Kiev city increased by 3% due to positive net migration. Outside the capital, the central, southern and eastern regions experienced a severe decline in population. Between 1989 and 2001, the Donetsk region lost 491,300 people, or 9.2% of its 1989 population. A neighboring Luhansk region lost 11% of its population. Chernihiv region, in central Ukraine northeast of Kiev, lost 170,600 people, or 12% of its 1989 population, the highest percentage loss of any region in Ukraine. In southern Ukraine, Odessa region lost 173,600 people, or 6.6% of its 1989 population. By 2001, Crimea's population declined by 29,900 people, representing only 1.4% of the 1989 population. However, this was due to the influx of approximately 200,000 Crimean Tatars, a number equivalent to approximately 10% of Crimea's 1989 population, who arrived in Crimea after 1989 and whose population in that region increased by a factor of 6.4 from 38,000 to 243,400 between 1989 and 2001. Collectively, the net population loss in the regions of Ukraine outside the westernmost regions was 2,759,200 people, or 6.6% of the 1989 population. The total population of these regions in 2001 was 39,186,100. Thus, from 1989 to 2001, the pattern of population change was one of slight growth in Kiev, slight declines in western Ukraine, large declines in eastern, central and southern Ukraine, and slight decline in Crimea due to a large influx of Crimean Tatars. Regional differences in birth and fertility rates. Ukraine's total fertility rate is one of the lowest in Europe. However, significant regional differences in birth rates may account for some of the demographic differences. In the third quarter of 2007, for instance, the highest birth rate among Ukrainian regions occurred in Volyn Oblast. with a birth rate of 13.4 1,000 people, compared to the Ukrainian countrywide average of 9.6 1,000 people. The Volans birth rate is higher than the average birth rate of any European country with the exceptions of Iceland and Albania. In 2007, for the first time since 1990, 5 Ukrainian regions experience more births than deaths. This demonstrates a positive trend of increasing birth rates in the last couple of years throughout Ukraine. The ratio of births to deaths in those regions in 2007 was 119%, 117%, 110%, 100.7%, and 108%, respectively, with the exception of Kiev region. All of the regions with more births than deaths were in the less industrially developed regions of western Ukraine, according to a spokesperson for Ukraine's Ministry of Justice. The overall ratio of births to deaths in Ukraine had improved from 1 to 1.7 in 2004-2005 to 1 to 1.4 in 2008. However, the worst birth-to-death ratios in the country were in the eastern and central oblasts of Donetsk, Luhansk, Cherkasy and Poltava. In these regions, for every birth there were 2.1 deaths. Notably, Western Ukraine never experienced the Holodomor, as Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Romania ruled it at the time, helping to explain the better demographics there, as the rural population was never devastated. Specifically, during the time of the Holodomor, Poland ruled Ivano-Frankivsk, Lviv, Rivne, Ternopil, and Volyn oblasts, whereas Zakarpattia Oblast was under Czechoslovak rule, and Romania controlled Chernovtsi Oblast and a Budjak section of Odessa Oblast. Abortion behavior in the north, south, east and center regions of Ukraine are relatively homogeneous, while the western region differs greatly. Overall, the abortion rate in western Ukraine is 3 times lower than in other regions. However, this is not due to an increased use of modern contraceptive methods in the West, but simply due to the fact that pregnant women in the western regions are more likely to keep their babies. Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk oblasts in eastern and central Ukraine have the country's highest rate of abortions. Regional differences in death rates and health death rates also vary widely by region. Eastern and southern Ukraine have the highest death rates in the country, and the life expectancy for children born in Chernigov, Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk, Kherson, Kirovograd, Lugansk, Nikolaev, and Odessa regions is 1.5 years lower than the national average. Ukraine had a suicide rate of 29.6 per 100,000 population in 1998, a significant increase from the suicide rate of 19 per 100,000 in 1988. Suicides are more frequent in the industrially developed regions and in the rural areas of the country than in the cities. In western Ukraine, the suicide rate was lower than the national average at 11.1 per 100,000. The southern and eastern Ukrainian regions also suffer from the highest rates of HIV and AIDS, which impacts life expectancy. In late 2000, 60% of all AIDS cases in Ukraine were concentrated in the Odessa, Dnipropetrovsk, and Donetsk regions. A major reason for this is the fact that the urbanized and industrialized regions in the east and south of Ukraine suffered most from the economic crisis in the 1990s, which in turn led to the spread of unemployment, alcoholism, and drug abuse, thus setting the conditions for wider spread of the epidemic. Regional differences in income, In terms of income, the rural western and central regions of Ukraine are the poorest, while Kiev and the industrialized eastern regions of Ukraine are the wealthiest. In December 2010, the average monthly income in Ukraine was 2,629 hryvnias. The poorest regions in Ukraine, Volyn and Chernihiv, had monthly incomes of 1995 and 1951 hryvnias, respectively. In contrast, the monthly income in the city of Kiev was 4,174 hryvnias per month, the city of Sevastopol 2,712 hryvnias per month, and in Kiev region was 2,647 per month. Outside of the capital and the city of Sevastopol, the wealthiest regions were Donetsk and Luhansk, whose monthly incomes were 2,654 and 2,631 hryvnias per month, respectively. In terms of poverty rates, the western and southern regions of Ukraine have the country's highest poverty rates, while Ukraine's eastern regions have the lowest poverty rates. In 2001, 39% of Ukraine's population could be defined as poor when the World Bank's poverty threshold of $1 per day per capita was used. According to these standards, 49% of rural Western Ukrainians and 45% of urban Western Ukrainians were poor. In southern Ukraine, the percentages of poor were 51 and 40%, respectively. In contrast, 35% of urban and rural Ukrainians were poor based on per capita income less than $1 per day in the regions of eastern Ukraine. When poverty was measured according to the percentage of the population who spent 80% or more of their income on food, regional differences shrank somewhat. In the western regions of Ukraine, 28% of rural residents and 9% of urban residents spent 80% of their income or more on food. In Ukraine's eastern regions, 19% of rural and 11% of urban residents spent 80% or more of their income on food. Urbanization migration. Ukraine is the major source of migrants in Russia and many of the European Union member states. During the 1990s and early 2000s, Ukraine's sputtering economy and political instability contributed to rising emigration, especially to nearby Russia, Poland and Hungary, but also to other states such as Italy, Portugal, Spain, Turkey, Israel, Russia and Canada. Although estimates vary, approximately 2 to 3 million Ukrainian citizens are currently working abroad, most of them illegally, in construction, service, housekeeping, and agriculture industries. Eastern Ukrainians are likely to immigrate to Russia, while Western Ukrainians are likely to move to the EU. Between 1991 and 2004, the government counted 2,537,400 individuals who emigrated, 1,897,500 moved to other post-Soviet states, and 639,900 moved to other, mainly Western, states. By the early 2000s, Ukrainian embassies reported that 300,000 Ukrainian citizens were working in Poland, 200,000 in Italy, approximately 200,000 in the Czech Republic, 150,000 in Portugal, 100,000 in Spain, 35,000 in Turkey, 20,000 in the United States, and small significant numbers in Austria, Belgium, France, Germany, Greece, Sweden, Switzerland and the UK. The largest number of Ukrainian workers abroad, about 1 million, are in the Russian Federation. Since 1992, 232,072 persons born in Ukraine have emigrated to the U.S. For the point of view of the economic impact on natives, more appropriate than the absolute numbers is the volume of immigration as a proportion of the native population, excluding the Russian Federation. Portugal and the Czech Republic have the highest rate of Ukrainian emigrants as a proportion of the native population, while the much larger Italy has the largest absolute confirmed number of Ukrainian emigrants.